Hello guys, very good afternoon to one and all, and today's topic is again on database management systems. We have been learning about databases from our last couple of days, and today's topic is one of the most important part of our applications, right. So yesterday we have ended with some part of our designing of a databases for online shopping. If you do remember or not, I have created a table, call it as user information, nothing but whenever user is go to register from the application. Now let's say any application like any shopping website, if I'm checking, so that application basically takes you the input and it just store the data into your application. So for that we have been created a table for it, and today what I'm going to trying to talk about is I'm going to talk about very important topic or very important thing in your databases, something called constraints, right. We have been learning about this constraints topic earlier also, but at the time of we are learning, we have learned about how theoretically it will be get works, but we have not seen any practically. Alright. So now we are going to see how this constraint does works on your databases. Alright. So if I am trying to have a couple of tables, or if I have a couple of columns in my table, how do I apply this constraint on this table so that my table looks very simple, or it becomes very much integrated tables. Okay. So today's just I'm talking about the constraints now. The constraints is basically a constraint, or you can call it as a condition, right, which is given to any particular column of your databases, right. So if you want to give any condition to a particular databases, we basically use this constraints topic, right. So as a SQL server does supports a different or variety of constraints to implement the application, right, in which we do talk about the different constraints, like I'm show you with that example. So like right now we have a variety of constraints in SQL Server databases, because as I'm taking an example of RDBMS product as SQL Server, which is introduced by Microsoft, in which I'm trying to have 5 different variety of databases over there. So something like first one is unique, and second one is not null, and the third one is a primary key, and the fourth one is check, and the fifth one is a foreign key. Alright. So we do talk about the last one, foreign key, when it is comes to whenever we are making relations of 2 or 3 tables, or whenever we get integrated with 2 or more table data, then we supposed to go for foreign keys. But by the time, so I'm going to discuss the first 4 constraints of your databases. Alright. So now let me show you the screen one, so that you will understand what are the different constraints are available here, right. So the different constraints in SQL Server database, first of all, right, constraints in your databases of especially I'm talking about SQL Server. The first one is unique, second one is not null, and the third one is a primary key, fourth one is a check, last one is a foreign key. Yes, we do talk about this whenever it comes to the relations of multiple tables. We talk about the fifth one. So but the time being, I'm going to talk about only the first 4 different kind of constraints are presented in a SQL Server database. First one is unique, second one is not null, and third one is primary key, and the fourth one is a check constraint. Yes, practically we will see, before we talk about a constraint in practically, what is this constraint of unique we basically do. Alright, unique is a constraint if you apply, okay, if I'm applying, or for example if you are applied, okay, if you apply a unique constraint on the particular table or particular column of a table, alright, when you apply the particular constraint on the table or any column of your table, then the column does not have any duplicate values. Alright. So now I don't want to make any value supposed to not to have a duplicate. in that situation or in that scenario, we do talk about this kind of constraint, right. So, that is something called it as unique constraint. How does it works? Now, let me understand it, or let me tell you very clearly now, alright. So, for example, let me imagine that this is your employee ID column, right. This is your employee name column, right. This is your employee address column, right. So, let us say this is your employee address column, right. For example, I do have an employee called 101, employee name is some XYZ, employee address is something say Hyderabad, right. At the same time, I do have an employee number 2, which is the name is ABC, is from Bangalore, right. So, I do have an employee 3, say something like BCD, right. So, let me say Delhi, right. So, if I am trying to insert one more record here with the same number, let us say 101, right. At this particular moment, for example, this is username is something say Y, right. So, New Mumbai, alright. So, for example, when I am trying to insert this particular record into my table, right, my table has to show me a error for this, nothing but as a user you are not supposed to insert the same record or same ID which is already presented in my table. Here already have a table, right, I do have already have an ID in my table, right. So, when you are trying to insert same 101 again into this particular table, it is not possible, nothing but it has to show me an error message that it does not possible with this particular process. And how does we basically practically we do it? Now, let me shift to the SQL Server database, alright. So, here we have created a database called as online shopping, right. We have created a database called e_shoppy. Let me execute the content in this, because I do want to execute all my queries under this particular table now. Let us say e_shoppy. Right. So, for example, I do have any table now. Now, let me create a table for this. I hope you understand how do you create the table for this. Let us say create table, the table name is a test. Okay. So, if someone is say test is a table name. Okay. So, test let us say test unique is my table name. So, you understand very easily, alright. Now, let me say open and close for this and do have a unique, right. Say test ID column is an integer column, and whenever I want to specify unique, I need to specify something called unique is a constraint name to it, and followed by second one is a test name is a varchar column, right. I am not giving any constraint to it, alright. So, here let me tell you or let me execute this particular query now. So, now what will happen is, now this particular table once we have created, for example, you need to create this particular table on the database. Once you create this particular table, let me try to insert a few records into this. Say insert into the table name is task unique. I do write some values to it. What is the values? I need to write a value of test ID is 101, test name is dbms, alright. So, now let me insert this particular record now. So, insert into, because as you know already how to write an insert statement. So, I am writing an insert statement so that what is the message you are getting here, one row or rows are affected. Yes, I do one thing, alright. So, now let me say insert into the table name is task unique again, right. Say value, say 102 is my ID and the test ID name is say something like test, testing is my table name, alright. So, let me insert one more record also. Right now, how many records are there? Let us see this, select star from a task unique. When you are trying to search the details from this particular table, you just imagine here you do have two records here, right. Record number 101, record number 102. Just see this, this is your table structure. Okay. So now what is my intention is, I want to write one more table, or I want to insert one more record into the same table, say task unique value, say 101 I am trying to include, because see that I have already have a 101 in my table, right. If explicitly what I want to do is, I want to insert 101 again into my same table now. So when I am trying to insert this particular table, let's say application, right. So when I am trying to insert this particular record, it has to show me an error message, because that is the reason we are introducing a constraint called unique. See that what is the error message you are getting here, right. So now let me clear this error properly, so that we'll understand it easily. Yes, okay. So now let me show you this. So what is the error you are getting is, right, the error is about related to the constraint of what? Violation of unique key constraint, nothing but this is error which is occurred due to what? A unique key constraint. So what is the meaning of this constraint is? Let understand it very carefully. There is one constraint, okay. So we also do one thing, we can also decrease this. So we'll also decrease this particular error message, but right now I'm not decreasing. So let me take in the next day we talk about this, right. Can't insert a duplicate key into an object called as task unique, so that the duplicate keys or values of 101, right. So now what I'm trying to do is, here you have already have 101 record in the same table, and that table right now which have a unique key constraint, right. So if I am trying to insert 101 again into the same table, the duplication of the key is 101, so that the statement has been terminated, nothing but your statement has been not executed properly. So that's the reason we just need to have this particular table. So now is there any record is inserted? Let me check and let me show you now. Let's see, select star from, what is the table name? Task unique is my table name. Yes, this is a table name I have. Within this I do have only 2 records, because I don't have any other record, nothing but when I am trying to insert this third record, it show me an error. So what is why this error is coming is, error is coming due to of unique key constraint. Please do remember this, unique key constraint. Because the unique key constraint, what is the unique key constraint is doing? Duplicates keys or not allowing us. Am I very clear on this, guys? So this is the first constraint what you need to remember when I am talking about a different kind of constraint. The first constraint is a unique key constraint. Unique key constraint is a constraint which never allows you to insert some kind of duplicate values into this. Am I very clear, guys? Please do remember this, right? Please do remember this. If you need a script, right, it will be. Now this row will be allowed, this record will be inserted. Right, and the second, this record is also got inserted, because there is no duplication here, right. But this record will be a problem, this record will not be inserted, right, due to what? A unique key constraint. Okay, so this unique key constraint will not accept you to insert any duplicates into this, right. Am I very clear on this, guys? Right, please write the things which is able to display on your screen right now, because these are the questions which you probably get into your interviews, very, very important interview questions is, right. So please do write these points, whatever it is displaying on this, and the error, this is your error message you have to get whenever you practicing also. This is the error message you need to get. So once you are getting this error message, in the sense it is probably correct. Please check it out, please write the things whatever it is displaying on your screen right now. Okay, so once it is completed, now let me shift to the one more constraint here. What is the second constraint we have? It is something called not null. Name itself is suggesting, right? Not null. What is the meaning of not null? Not null constraint will not accept you to insert a null values, explicit null values into this particular table is. So, nothing but, for example, where I supposed to use this practically, right, where I supposed to use this particular one, right, you can use the columns like mobile number or phone numbers, right. On this particular columns you can use this particular unique key constraint. Okay. So, and the ID column, sometime you can have an ID columns of a table, we can use this unique key constraint. Now, let me talk about second one, that is a not null. What is this not null constraint is? Not null constraint will not accept you to insert a null values into this. Okay, what is mean to say this? Employee ID, right, say employee name, say employee address. There are three columns of my table where employee ID is 101, employee ID is XYZ, right, some address, hey Hyderabad, say 102, right, say ABC, some again Hyderabad, alright. So, 103, I want to insert some explicit null value here, right. So, whenever if I am trying to insert this explicit null values here, nothing but I do not want to pass any employee name here. Whenever you are trying to insert this kind of records, it has to show me an error called this is a record will not be inserted into table, because you supposed to supply compulsory of username column or employee name column is. Okay, nothing but every employee ID will be given to a particular employee of the organization. If employee ID is null, then the no ID will be given to those people is, right. So, this is how you are supposed to find out. I mean, understand first clearly. So, what is the motto of this not null constraint is? It does not allows you to insert some null values into your particular table is, alright. Now, let me show you with a one example here, right. So, what I will do is I will drop the same table here. How to drop the table? Drop table, table name is test, unique is my table name. I am going to drop this particular table now. Once you drop this table, I can also create the same table again now, right. How do I create the same table now? Let me practice that. Create table, table name is test not null, nothing but I am trying to insert or trying to say one more table name called test null, right. So, this particular table which have two columns here, one is test ID which is type of integer, we have already written as unique for this, yes, and here test name is a varchar column, and this varchar column supposed to have a 50 characters to it, and this supposed to be a not null, not space null, nothing but two different words. We do need to write two different words to it, not space null. So, once you write this particular table and execute the table here, right, nothing about it, your table is created. Right now, your table does not have any records here. Let me check it out and show you once again. Select star from a test not null, right. If I am trying to select you the data, there is no data is presented in my table now, yes or no? Exactly. So, once if I try to insert some records here, insert into the table name is test not null, right, values. For example, if I might insert the value of 101 and the test name is ABC, yes, this record has to insert because there is no problem record, right. This record has to be inserted. Yes, now let me check it out whether it is inserting or not. Yes, 100% it is inserting, because we are not passing anything is unfortunately or fortunately mistake, right. Say do insert one more record into this table name is call it as test not null, right, value say 102 followed by XYZ, right. So, now this particular record when you trying to insert this is also supposed to insert, because there is no problematic things in this particular two records here, right. Yes or no? Nothing but these two records will be inserted without having any problem now. Now, let me check it out what is the data in this particular table now. Let me say select start from test not null table. Now, let me execute this particular table. Yes, do have two records here. Now, let me show you the records here. You have a records here, right? Now let me say records and let me execute here. Now you have a record number 101, you have record number 102. So what I want to do is explicitly I want to insert a null value into the second column now. What is the second column here? You have a second column name called test name, right? Into this particular column I want to insert some explicit null value. How do I insert it? Say, do one thing. Try to write an insert statement inserting the values only for the few columns. How do you insert only for a few columns? Say that insert into the table name is test not null. You need to insert the only into test ID column. You supposed to not to nothing, but whenever you write like this, you need to pass only the values to a particular column what you are specifying here. See that I am specifying nothing but test ID column, right? This is another variety of writing a insert statement. Hope you understand earlier. See that here test null, test not null table have a two columns, but explicitly how many columns values I am passing? I am passing only for one column, that is test ID column. What is the value? It is something say 101. Now let me execute this. It has to be a problem because whenever you are trying to insert a record, when a record is trying to insert it, now this has to happen. Now what is this error? Understand it very carefully now. Say cannot insert the null value into the column what? Test name, right? Because the table eShopee dot test not null is a table name. Column does not allows you to insert null values, nothing but it does not allow nulls, so that your insertion has been failed, so that your statement has been terminated, nothing but it is not executed properly onto the table list. Understood guys? So whenever you practice this, you need to get this error. Error has to be like this. Okay, the error is clearly stating that cannot insert the value null into the column name of test name, and the table eShopee column does not allows the null values, so that insertion has been failed, so that your statement has been terminated unfortunately. So this is the regarding what? Second constraint, not null. Please do write the points which is displaying on your screen. This is your table structure and this is the error message you have to get, and this is the base description about not null constraint. Please do write the points which is displaying on your screen right now. If you are finished with a not null constraint, let me take you to the next constraint here. What is the next constraint we need to talk about is, we need to talk about the other constraint name called a primary key. So what is this primary key do is? Primary key is as simple as that combination of a unique key constraint plus it is a combination of not null, okay, right? Mean to say that it is a combination, nothing but first thing is what is a unique property will tell you? Unique property will tell you that it has to have, it does not have a duplicate values, the first thing. Yes, and what is the second? Not null is telling that nulls are not inserted. Yes, nothing but combination of these two will be a primary key column. Am I very clear guys right now? So the third primary key is trying to tell you that it's a combination of unique key constraint as well as not null constraint, and the first one property of unique key constraint is does not allows you the duplicate values, and followed by not null will not allows you to insert some null values into the particular table list. This is the reason your insertion, I mean to say the primary key is exist, very very important. And every table, in every table you talk about, every table does have only single primary key constraint, right? So please do remember how many primary constants will be available for the table. It will be only one, right? You have a number of unique key constraint, you do have a number of not null constraints, but a primary key column will be only one, and most of this time this particular primary, as I will explain you yesterday, this will be most of the time identity column, right? I was explaining you something called as auto increment in the last class, right? I was explaining you something called auto increment in the last class. That is what it basically means about identity factor. So that's the reason every table does not have or have only one column, that is a primary key column, and the most of the time that column values will be auto incremented values, which is automatically incremented by your database itself, right? Very important factor. Now let me show you with practically with the both. I am trying to insert some duplicate here, I am trying to insert some what I can call it as some null values here, so that your table supposed to not to accept it. Okay. So now what I first thing is I want to drop this table, drop table name is a command is used to drop the table from your database. When you drop the table, you cannot able to see the data of a particular table in your databases. Now let me execute this particular table, so that your table is got dropped from the table databases called eShoppy. Alright, so now what I want to do is I just want to write some more table name called create table. The table name is test primary key. Test primary key is a table name where I do have a few columns to this, right? The column name one is say test ID is a type of integer, and I do write this particular column is a primary key column, nothing primary and key, there is two different words, I just need to have a space between that, okay. And the test name is a varchar column, and the size of this particular column is 50, and it would be a not null constraint, understood. So when you talk about this two table, when I talk about this particular column and this column right now not accept null values, first thing null values, and also it will not accept any kind of duplicates. Yes, right. So now let me first execute this table, and I'll apply after that identity also. Now your table is got created. Your table is got created with a name called a test primary key. Alright. So how do I execute? First try to insert some records here. Insert into the test primary key is my table name. I do have a column value. So first column value is 100, right? And our test name is I am passing something say DBMS to this. Alright. So now let me execute this particular query. Your query is executed, record is inserted into this table list, right. Now let me insert one more table which is of not have any issues with the table now. Say let me say a test primary key value say 101 and followed by you need to have something like application, let us say application test, okay. So there is one more record, two records will be inserted now, yes or no. So record number 100, record number 101. Now let me check the table data once, select star from the table name is a test primary key, okay. So now let me execute this. You do have a two different records here, right. Record number 101 and record number 100, two records we have here. Now let me show you the data once, right. So you have a data of this particular table, the data is something like 100 one record, 101 is another record, yes or no. So do one thing, try to insert some record, something like insert into the table name is test primary key, right. So do test for this, say values 100 and followed by one more particular thing I need to test here, let us say testing. Yes, now let us try to insert this particular record. Now it has having an error because just imagine one thing. So, you are trying to insert a record which is already there in that particular table, nothing but it is something related 100, nothing but duplicates are not acceptable, right. Error number 1. So, what is this error number 1? Error number 1 which tells you about, see that violation about which key here, primary key constraint, right. So, what is that primary key constraint? Cannot insert a duplicate key into the object called test primary key, right. And what is the reason it is not inserting? The reason is the duplicate key, the value is 100, nothing but it is found the duplicate value something called 100, so that it is not inserting the record into the table, so that your statement has been terminated, nothing but your record is not inserted into this particular table. If you have any doubts, go to this particular table or go to this particular query window and try to write the table data right now. Say select star from test primary key is table data, execute this. Do we have any third record here? Only 2 records here. We have inserted earlier 2 records, right? Only those 2 records. When I am trying to inserting third record, then the record has been got a problem here. Am I very clear, guys? This is how we can work with the first time. I mean to say, when you are trying to insert some duplicate values, then it has been shows me an error now. Now, let me experiment on one more thing. I am trying to insert the record into the table, let us say test primary key values, right. So, how many column values I want to pass? Let us say I want to pass only test name I want to pass, I do not want to pass test ID to it. Say let us say values. So, what is the values I am going to pass here? Let us say C programming, right. So, now let me execute this particular table. Yes, I do got one more error here. This error is not related to the duplicate values, it is related to a null value insertion, nothing but error number 2. Your error number 2 is this one. See that there are the different differences here, right. So, maybe your constraint name is same, right. This is also about primary key, this is also about primary key. See that the first one is telling you that can't insert the duplicate value, but here comes to the second one, cannot insert the value null into the column called test ID, nothing but you supposed not to insert any null value into test ID column, because the table is Shopee, nothing but database name dot column, table name is what? Test primary key, column does not allows you to insert null values, so that your insertion is got fail, so that your statement has been terminated. Am I very clear, guys? These are the few things which we need to remember compulsory when we are talking about a primary key constraint. See that primary key constraint is a combination of what right now? Unique as well as not null. Am I very clear, guys? Please do write the points which is displaying on your screen. Let us see about primary key. There are the 2 errors, 2 kind of errors I am showing here. This error is due to duplicate value, duplicate values insertion, right, and this one error 2 is due to the table due to what null value insertion, right. Please do write the points which is displaying on your screen. Alright, so if you are clear with this particular primary key constraint, now let me extend you this, alright, let me extend you this. Yesterday I was been talking about something called it as identity, right, have you remembered, hope, right. This identity column or identity is one of the attribute or one of the special attribute which is presented in every databases, which is used to have one special column will be incremented automatically, so that this column values call it as auto incremented values. Nothing but as a user you supposed to not to pass any values to this. As a user you cannot able to pass any values to this, automatically your database itself will send you the value and that value will be implemented automatically. So, most of the identity columns are primary key columns, first thing. Most of these identity columns or belongs to identity columns or primary key columns, and this primary key columns will be most of the time ID columns of the table, because a single only one primary key is allowed for the table. Nothing but you can have only nothing but you do have a number of columns for your table in which there is only one column value which is incremented, and that too you can apply it on the primary key column. As soon as when you apply it on the primary key column and the value which basically allowed only once, nothing but your ID of a particular table, your primary key is only one, right. So that try to apply it on that will not be any burden on the developer, so that it is take care, your database itself will take care, and this will be useful or this will be used. All right, when it will be used in the terminology, or this will be used in the terminology of relationships between whenever you want to make a relation between multiple tables, then we do have this column will be a most important column. It's nothing but it will be most importantly used column for this. Okay, am I very clear, guys? Say create table, the table name. All right, before this I'm going to drop the previous table now. How to drop it? Drop table name is task primary key table. Drop this table, your table is got dropped from the database table or database. Then let me create the table once again. Create table, the table name is task primary key again, because as soon as when you drop it, you can also create once again, right. So once you have a test ID, is a type of integer, it is a primary key column, and the test IDs we need to start from identity of 1 or else 100. Let us say 100 comma 1, nothing but 100 is a seed value, nothing but where is your start value has to be there. And second one is test name is a varchar column, is a size of 50 or 100 depends on you, and it is a not null constraint. Okay, I do clear on this. Okay, now let me execute this particular table once. Your table is got created, right. Now what I will do is, as when I am making any column as an identity column, and this column values no need to pass from my end, nothing but externally as a user you supposed to not to pass any value to it, nothing but your record will be record will be identified uniquely within that particular table, is so that this identity will be generation problem. All right, say insert into the table name is task primary key. Okay, so what is the table name here? The table name is task primary key is table name. Values, I am trying to insert the values to it, right. What is the values? No, I'm not required, it is not required to pass any test ID column, it's only required to pass a test name column, right, say XYZ, right. So now if even though I'm not passing a value, that will be inserted, because this is a column value, it is already given by your database itself, so that this record will be identified uniquely within this particular table. Even though I'm inserting one more record, let's say one more record insertion, insert into the table name is task primary key, yes, values, I'm trying to insert the value something like ABC, right, insert this one more record, and second record is also inserted. Try to select the data from the table, right, say select start from task primary key, right. Yes, execute this. Now how many records here? We do inserted 2 records, but we have never passed the value for a test ID column, right. Have just check it out. Have you passed any value for test ID? No, but we have given an instruction to your database that it has to be started from 1. It has to be started from 100. It has been started 100, and you have to have a next record 1. Nothing but your next record will be 101. So this is how we do write a primary key column most of the time in every database. Right now I'm trying to create a database for online shopping. In that database, whatever the table I'm going to create, for every table I'm going to apply, it is supposed to be a primary key column, and followed by it has to be a identity column for sure. Yes, understand everyone, this is all about your primary key constraint. Now let me talk about one more constraint of your database, that database constraint name called a check constraint. Yes, you do clear on this previous three? A check constraint. Check constraint is to, why it is nothing but it's used to apply a condition you can apply the condition on the particular table. Now, nothing but let us see that I do have a test table, right. Let us say test ID is the first column, test name is second column. I do want to add one more column called, let us say test marks, right. So, what I want to do is, for example, I am trying to add the student details into this table whose marks is supposed to be greater than 35, right. So, only those records has to be added into my table, the remaining records supposed to not to add. So, let us say 100 is the first record, username is XYZ, he scored, I mean user 100, test name XYZ, within this he scored somewhere around 55 marks. This record has to be accepted. User 101, same text name is XYZ, in this he has scored somewhere 45 marks, it is also accepted. 102 record, test name is XYZ and he got 95 marks, it is also accepted, right. If I say 101, same test name is XYZ, if I am trying to insert the records of number is 25, nothing but if I am trying to insert a number which is of 25, or if I am trying to insert a record which is of marks of 25, this has to be failed. Record or insertion has to be failed whenever you trying to, insertion has to be failed for the record of 103, because we have set the condition what? We have set the condition like it has to be greater than 35, right. So, whenever I am trying to insert the record of 103, if you got a marks of 25, this record supposed to not to insert. Yes, how do I do insert this particular table is? It is pretty simple. I am trying to create you one more simple table for this. Say create table, the table name is test check constraint, test check, right. So, how many columns we do have? We do have a two columns for this. One is test ID is an integer, it is a primary key column and it is an identity column. First of all, nothing but the values will be incremented or values will be taken care by your database itself. Next one is a test name which is of varchar column and the size I am passing as 50, it is not null constraint. And the last one is test marks column, it is about integer column only, but I do want to provide a check constraint to it. How do I do it? Test marks of this particular column has to be greater than 35, nothing but I am trying to provide one more condition with a check constraint here, right, yes or no. When I am trying to insert some records into this particular table, right, your table is created with a name called a test check, right. Now, check constraint, yes or no. Now, let me say insert into test check values, right. First thing is a table name called XYZ, right, and I am inserting the record of 95. I'll try to insert this record because insertion supposed to be done properly. Yes, nothing but insertion has been done. I am trying to insert one more record, right. Insert into the table name is let us say test check values. I am trying to insert the subject name is XYZ and I am trying to insert the number as 25. So, this record has to show me an error. See that it has been showed me an error in my dialog window. Now, let me check it out what is that error is. See that insertion statement is conflict with the constraint with check constraint, and the conflict is occurred in the database of eShopee, table name of test check and the column name is test marks, so that your insertion has been terminated, nothing but your insertion has been failed, yes or no. So, this is how we can apply the check constraint on the table or on the columns of whatever you expected is. and there is one more constraint which is left over, that is your foreign key constraint, that will be discussed when it comes to a relations of multiple tables. Whenever I am trying to make a relations of multiple tables, I do discuss about the foreign key constraint. Yes, am I very clear on this example, guys? Right. So this is what a constraints topic in a SQL Server, because out of 5 we have discussed 4. There is one more left over that will be discussed in the future, like whenever it comes to relations part, when we are whenever I want to add multiple tables, or whenever I want to get the multiple tables data. So I do discuss about the topic called a foreign key constraint. Okay. So that's it for the day. So I'm trying to stop the session today. So thank you so much is listening to us. Have a great day. By the way, I'm Anil Kumar, the trainer of APSSDC.